So it said you go in the buffer app and all right.
Pretty good.
Maybe 5 tweaks. And
Okay, guys. I think we're going to get started with the workshop portion of this guy now. So let me hand out these guys for you. Actually, if you just want to hand stack that around that way.
100 pages, that's amazing.
I know, right? But it's kind of the same. So for those of you tuning in the audience live, I was just talking about our 100-page business plan that we just wrote for Float On, which the goal was actually very similar to a lot of the stuff that I'm talking about here, which was like we're trying to get investment capital, and we're this super young business who's had some success, but it's really hard to show that success is not due to just like straight luck. Essentially, like we can just show our numbers and like our summary, and it still just looks ridiculous. So the goal with that was just to like essentially overwhelm the person with the amount of information they could look through, and then make a really accessible little like mini version of it for them to like look through, so that they can just like go into like extreme depth on any part of it. So okay, getting back to the actual workshop portion. So I was going to see if anyone has any kind of big conversations or any big talks coming up with people who really needs this kind of yes answer from, and I was going to actually just kind of put you in the hot spot and try to workshop through some things. But if not, then I definitely do with Float On, so we can always do that or workshop through some cake things as well. Does anyone want to volunteer to come up and workshop through some issues that they have, or?
I can, yeah.
Yeah? Okay,
awesome.
Great. That'd be perfect, yeah.
That's perfect.
Totally. Why don't you just stay back there and tell us about things?
Okay, well, it just kind of got started.
And introduce yourself and your business too for anyone who doesn't know.
Okay, Michael O'Connor, and I'm starting to, or trying to build a nonprofit that facilitates the organization and development of community marketplaces, or monthly community marketplaces. And my experiences with last Thursday, that just, it was something organic, and it just sort of blew out of proportion really quickly, and the city had to engage for public safety issues, and now they're the ones pretty much doing the bare minimum to...
Actually, do you want to switch slots really quick? I just want to make sure that we pick you up on the mic.
Oh, sure.
Go for it.
But yeah, right now the mayor's office is pretty much paying the bare minimum to shut down the street and keep it clean and safe for the most part. But it's at maximum capacity. Something very dramatic has to happen to it for it to get back into the community's ownership, because the mayor's calling the shots and he's about to leave, and it's really Alberta's event, and they're the ones that should be paying for it, deciding its future and making it workable for them, and that's not happening. So, and it's too many people for them to even consider owning it. It's not feasible for their business. A lot of them kind of feel that way at this point. So I'm preparing to start another event in this district, which is just much more primed for something like that, in my opinion, based off of its size and the amount of artists in this area. And so I was looking at starting an event on private property here, which I reserved. Oregon Department of Transportation has some property right around the corner, and it's just a place for artists and just like a community to start, a community of entrepreneurs to start gathering to sell their wares for free, because it'll cost like $1,000 really to get that space and have it ours for a week, really.
Nice.
So, but based off of the situation that's going on with last Thursday, I could organize that community to shut down the event in order to let it cool off, and have like another stage set here to sort of try to filter people that way, and try to use the mayor's resources to the mayor's access to the media to have the media sort of help them with the transition, or just kind of let people know that we're shutting it down, but there's this over here, and just to try to create a diversion. But yeah, I mean, right now I have to go through the planning process of figuring out all the profiles of every business in this district to see who can make money off of something like this. And then, once I get my community sort of organized and gathering, and just like once the demand is significant enough throughout the whole southeast neighborhood, we can figure out where and how to grow it and how to finance it from there.
I like it. So, what did you want to work on? I mean, it sounds like something that might be useful is just working on an overall pitch to like businesses in the area. I don't know if that's what you wanted to do, or if there's something more specific you had to work on.
Well, it's, trying to work with the business district, the Central East Side Industrial Council, and having those people buy into this fully
Okay.
and take ownership of it is my goal, because this is supposed to be for the business district, by the business district, that serves the greater community of, that in the neighborhood. So,
Totally. And so I guess to sum up then, just to make sure I understand where we're coming from, is you're trying to put on an alternative last Thursday,
Mhm.
which is just kind of like descending more and more into chaos as like
Right.
the community goes up, and trying to make sure, like, working from the beginning, that businesses are on board. This is like an event that's beneficial to everyone. And you're wondering, right now, like maybe working on some, like how you're going to approach that business council and actually really get them to buy into this and get them to think that this is a good thing to move to their area.
yeah. Right
Nice.
now, I'm conducting or designing a business survey to just figure out what kind of businesses are where, to see who can make money off of this type of special event. And
I would benefit from that kind of traffic.
yeah, I mean, it's just like the survey process alone will pique their interest if they
That's
can
good.
make
Yeah, I
money
like
off
the
of
survey
it.
process. Yeah.
But that's really the only way to figure out what's going to be a good fit for the businesses here.
And so have you already talked to them much, or what's your
The Central East Side, yeah, it's in fact, it was just this last month that or this month still, it's still May. But yeah, it's just at the land use meeting, and they're excited about it, but their concerns have to do with planning, and they don't want to pay for something that they don't see a plan for, and ultimately, it's like, I want this to be my job, so I want them to be paying, like, I'd like that the business district to be paying for it and sort of start the filtration process through the actual industrial council, to start with. I mean, because it's something that benefits the district as a whole, but it's also something that I could target individual businesses and get them buying into it, and we could negotiate street closures without the business district as a whole, but,
So let's delve a little into these questions. I think a lot of these too, the checklist, you should be able to like kind of crank through, even some of the questions at the bottom, just because you've already like had discussions with them. So this is great. You can kind of like hop in mid discussion, which is perfect. So what do you want? So you want these guys to basically pay for the event that would go on?
Right, yeah.
Okay,
It's
so
like,
like
well,
put up the money for
Yeah.
like to have the okay.
Also, street closures, I mean,
Totally.
what's
the
the
street
cost?
closure, business administration, just like the general organization of it, and to research it and develop it into its full creation,
So you're selling them your service as an organization of this event on a
Yeah,
this
to
monthly
be the
event,
organizer and developer for it, because it's going to benefit their district as a whole.
And do you know how they work? So along with background research, we can probably check that off. But who can help is a little bit of a tricky one. That's like the decision maker thing. So is it like this industrial district
They have a
committee in
board.
general? Yeah, is it like the board that you
They
need
have
to
the-
convince, or is it like
I do
specific
have,
people obviously have like more influence needed to convince them?
yeah,
Like, who
I
is it
mean-
you're actually going for here?
it is a board, but there are specific people that influence more than others, and
Are there subcommittees on the board? Or do they address everything unilaterally?
I imagine I don't know if there's subcommittees, so I know that they're a pretty closed group, and their decision-making process is very secretive.
So a really simple sense, like if we can get down to like a single sentence, like what's in for them if they actually do put up the money for the event?
Well, it can generate value throughout the entire district. If there's thousands of people showing up to a district on a regular basis, businesses can expect that type of traffic. It's like it's a good bet for them, and so it'll drive entrepreneurial activity in the area, and values will go up. And it's something that could happen a lot faster than what happened to Alberta Street, because that was a very slow start, and it's just sort of blown into this thing that's sort of out of control. And I think the demand is just that significant now for something like this to happen much faster than we've seen before.
And then I think that's great. And before we get too deep into this, then what's your bet now? Like if you can't get them to agree to like front the bill, what's your alternative? Like how are you going?
Well, my alternative is to just start started with private property without anybody's permission, which I already had reserved.
Nice.
You know, that's what I was planning on. You know, so I was shooting for a July start date and trying to figure out all of this planning with street closures and getting businesses to commit to me in like no time, like in 2 weeks is just an impossibility, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, we're not really going to see the peak of what last Thursday's, critical mass until it really gets going for the year. That's my alternative, is to just fundraise separately through the grassroots artistic entrepreneurial community. You know, we'll throw an event and raise the capital. I think with with ease. $1,000 really isn't that much to get started. So
great. Well, that's a really strong bet. I mean, that's like, if they don't give it, it's like, okay, well, great. Like, I'm already set to go ahead. So that's like, that's super powerful. That's a great thing to move forward with. Okay, let's go through this checklist really quickly. So, do your background research, have you already like researched the board and kind of other things that they lend money to and stuff like that, or decisions that they've made? Reading back through minutes, actually, Ashkan and I have had this experience. We find that really useful. Minutes are really boring. Actually, like when you start piecing them together, actually like really interesting for a lot of organizations. You start kind of seeing who disagrees with each other and weird sort of like disputes and weird things that they'll end up like citing to you, where you're like, you just came up with that at the last meeting, like it just barely got voted in. Well, that's gonna be the reason that I can't do this. Like, gives you a lot of background for it. I don't know if you've gone that far, but I totally suggest like delving through maybe even just like the last few months of minutes for the organization, which almost all, like if it's a nonprofit, then those are usually just public.
Yeah, they're not a nonprofit. They're a closed group.
Gotcha. Interesting. Yeah.
Their land use meetings are open to the public, though they don't like to let people know that. You know, it's like you need to be invited in.
Interesting.
But that's like when they have people like TriMet or Metro come in, sort of talk about construction or something like that that's going to be happening in their district, and so that's when those sort of things can happen. And it's pretty much participating, just sort of sitting and watching that meeting just really shows me who likes to shake things around and move things around, and who's really sort of controlling the decisions or the dialogue, so to
That's
speak.
good. So you've been going to their open meetings and stuff?
Yeah, and you know, it's I've had a personal sit down with the co-chair.
Which is awesome. So yeah, in-person meeting, like
Yeah,
check, that one off the list. Great.
The co-chair is, he was hired as a consultant to be their consultant. So he's got like a PhD in urban planning and anthropology or something like that. But you know, they hired him to help make decisions for them. And he's just flat out said at the land use meeting, he's like, we need to see a plan before anything, and that's pretty much where we're standing right now, I think.
So yeah, the plan is great, and that's like anytime they ask you for something like that, that's perfect. Like and the quicker you can get it to them too, I would say absolutely the better. Like I actually really like the survey thing too. I was gonna like piggyback on that one. So that gets into the next one, preparing custom material for you. I don't know if you've like actually prepared like documents on like your fake organization letterhead for right now. So
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, perfect. That's great.
Totally doing that.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, check. I would also say like with the surveys too. That's a great excuse to start getting on contacting them, like, and updating them with like the minor results from the surveys. I don't know, like anytime when you can just, I'd say at least once a week or like maybe even twice a week, you should be contacting them, being like, is there anything else I can get for you guys? Here's what I've been up to. Like, is there anything else that I can do for you? Here's the results from these surveys from the businesses that I've contacted so far. They all seem really positive. Like, I guess this is good news, right? Type of thing. And yeah, I maybe even come up with one or two more things like those surveys going around where they're just providing constant input to you, which means you can provide constant input to the organization. Like, even if it's just they see your inbox or your name in the inbox and immediately archive it, it's still that like familiarity, and they know like you're trucking along, which shows this kind of diligence too.
And I must say, you know, that's actually part of like a fundamental portion of my business plan, is to find a good way to get the conversation going back and forth, because this is something that we're developing as we go. And so we have to, like, the businesses that are committed and are a part of it, they have to be updating me on how they feel about it. Like, how was this last event? What can we do to make it better? We're going to experiment with this to just keep going and see how it works. So, creating that conversation is going to be fundamental, like, as I go through this process.
Definitely. That's great too. Yeah, having a system of constant updating, throughout the entire thing. is great. Let's tackle these last two on the checklist really quick. So these are two, I'll just like run these ones by you really quick. It's mainly things that I'd suggest if it falls through with it. Which is I say, like, if they say no right now, don't give up. Just, like, actually do make that plan of contacting them every 3 months for a year and update them with how things are going on your, like, own private terms or raising your own private money. And, like, at the end of a year, if they still don't want to do it, I would be shocked.
Yeah, you know, it was really interesting. That was one of the things that they were like, so when are you you're trying to get this started next year, right? And I'm like, no, the summer is like, oh,
Right
like,
now.
holy crap.
Next month, yes.
Oh, no kidding. Well, that kind of like shocked them a little bit. So, you know, and it's something that I was worried about last Thursday, and you know, trying to clean up that mess, and I'll just plan for it, and if it happens, I'll try to be as prepared as I can. But
Totally.
otherwise, yeah, I am trying to prepare for the long
That's
haul.
perfect,
'cause
yeah.
It does
And then,
make sense. For
And then,
a lot
yeah,
of
getting
people.
down a follow-up plan, too. Like, do you know what you're going to do if they do accept you? Like, kind of just show your own, like, gratitude or keep
Yes,
it
I'm gonna hire somebody that can help me do this, like a couple people, because I need somebody who has experience in business administration and just like the tools, like just your basic business administration tools and social media tools, and then somebody who has project management experience, like master's degree or something like that, to where we can make sure everything's sort of lined out in a nice, clean scope and can complete a project with our timeline.
And I'd
the
say, like,
resources that we
maybe
have.
just make, like, even a really personal follow-up plan to it, like, from the first event that you throw.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
maybe go around and just, like, collect a bunch of the wares from, like, the individual booths and just give them as presents to, like, the people, like, take some photos and make a nice little packet to give to the people on the board. It's like, hey, like, here's what you giving me money actually generated, and, like, yeah, here's some things from, like, the booths that people sold, and, like, people enjoying it. Like, something just really nice like that to just kind of, like, make them immediately regret buyer's remorse, or have that, like, feeling of, like, oh, I guess we tossed money to this and it's happening now. Like, you just, I don't know, like, yeah. That might be a good little toss into the follow-up plan, too. It's like a little gesture
Yeah.
of kindness.
Yeah, because it's really what we're trying to protect is people that have limited resources, to give them an opportunity to like try their business out and experiment with their market. So I think that, in fact, the executive director was telling me that the board was excited about being a potential resource for entrepreneurs, and that was a concept, an idea that they were really entertaining.
Positive response.
Yeah, so you know,
So
it's
that's awesome.
like,
Yeah, it sounds like things are going really well. That's perfect. And we don't have a whole ton of time, I think, other than that. Let me check my clock right now, my cake clock. Yeah, looks like we're a little past 8. So what kind of color are there? I mean, it sounds like things are going great. And yeah, I would just say definitely like have that really nice, like, kind follow-up plan. And like, don't feel bad too about contacting them slightly more often and just like sending them even more updates and information, just because like they are so. I mean, not that I know like how much you've been sending them right now. I get the impression it's kind of like
it's
every
pretty
couple
much
weeks or
weekly,
something. Okay,
actually.
weekly. That's nice. That's
yeah,
great.
it's like
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's
Weekly
yeah.
updates are perfect.
Weekly is awesome.
yeah, because you know I need information from them on a regular basis. Like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to be sending you a survey. It's like he's like, okay, let me know if there's anything else I can
That's
exchange
sweet. It sounds like you're doing
information
everything right. Do you have any like kind of last acute questions for the group or anything you're having
Well,
problems with?
you know,
wanted
it's
to
like
ask?
one thing that I did kind of come across, because you know I kind of realized that I had too much energy about this at first without really a lot of passion and not enough direction at first, and I think it kind of made them a little bit standoffish. And so what I've kind of realized is that the process of surveying the district, not just the business district, but all of the neighborhoods under the Southeast Uplift, which is pretty much from 82nd all the way down to the river, to find out how many people want to participate in this. So it's like when I ask people to participate in the survey, to collect information this way, it's generating demand. And it's basically what I'm trying to prove is that there is a significant demand, and let the numbers and information talk for itself. And so instead of me trying to convince them to give me money, you know, I want them to be convincing me to take their money. You know what I mean?
If they say yes, make sure you're ready for. It's hard for somebody to say yes to something when they don't know what happens after they say yes. While you still have the brain power for it, before you end up trying to reap a whirlwind here, you may want to sit down and just make a checklist for every single step you need to take next to pull it all off. And people love seeing checklists. They love saying, oh, so after we give you the money, this stuff is going to happen in this checklist. And
Yeah, like a roadmap. Totally.
It's basically,
Plan.
I kind of just like, once we understand the amount of people that want to participate in something like this, we'll be able to figure out where and how to grow it and how much it will cost. And I think ultimately having a plan that has a scale from like 5,000 to 50,000 people, and all the costs associated with that, I think that would just make them comfortable.
So do you have an, I guess, right before we just kind of close things off, was there anything that you were like curious about or kind of floundering with yourself, or that you needed any extra help with? Or,
you know, it's just, this is a unique district, and getting people to participate in the survey is something that I'm probably going to have to experiment, because you know, people don't like to participate in things like this right off the bat. So, you know, having good information that's right in front of them, that kind of sparks their intrigue, like lets them know what it is. I guess like coming up with that literature.
You know, I'll just toss this out real quick, and if any of you guys have any ideas on like quick tips for people getting like accepting a survey just kind of off the bat too, definitely toss them out. Mine is if you put in some questions on the survey that make it useful information for any of the businesses that you're interviewing. Just giving them access to the data from the survey afterwards is a really good incentive with any kind of survey thing. Is like, hey, you'll get to see how like the collective of every other business that I presented this to answered is like, one that I found works. That's like the classic online.
People hate pencils, yeah. So QR codes, maybe on print materials, that'll take you right to a SurveyMonkey or Google thing.
Yeah.
And personal contact is king for getting people to fill stuff out too. But people hate pencils.
Yeah, walking around with an iPad even like might not be a terrible one.
Yeah, you know, it's just like getting people to check email addresses. I mean, there's even businesses that don't have email addresses.
Oh yeah, especially a lot of the artists.
Yeah, and also, you know, there's buildings here to where, I guess, getting access to the landlord, because they're tenants, like 90% of them are artists, and you know, there's a couple places like that around here too, and just making sure that I can get access to each individual
it's interesting.
person.
Anyone else have any last thoughts on that before I shut things down?
I was thinking something you could do is turn to for that is Craigslist. If you do like a SurveyMonkey thing and make it really accessible online, people seem to respond really well to that. And this is a pretty, Craigslist is just huge, of course, but especially locally, it's a really great way to just kind of like put that out there for people who might not be contactable via other means or who you might be overlooking. Just put something up in the community section and kind of target it towards like specific like businesses within this parameter or whatever.
We get forwarded a lot of things, like even when I don't see like something on Craigslist posted up, I'll just kind of get forwarded them by our customers. Things that say like, hey, someone is like targeting something towards businesses in the southeast. And like, I'm just gonna get notified that way. But it's true, even random things like requests for business information or just like opportunities that get posted up on Craigslist. Mustache ones, we get forwarded mustache opportunities. I've got like two separate like mustache casting calls forwarded to me as a result of Craigslist. So yeah, it definitely finds its way to the right home.
Yeah, you know, I think the surveys is pretty much like the concept of market analysis for me.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, where I learned in insurance a while ago, that was one of their innovative PR techniques into getting different groups was just to survey them. And it's just like, oh, we got this great information that, you know, it's like, this is your handwriting. You know, it's like,
it's interesting too, a lot of surveys are not like as accurate necessarily towards customer behavior, but this is like a perfect example of when to use them, which is when you need to get through like an intermediary. Like surveys make great information to present to someone to convince them that like you're able to go through with something, and like less good giving surveys to find out exactly what those people or what the businesses are going to do, but kind of good evidence for other people is what I found. Like once again, human beings are terrible at predicting our own behavior. Great, well I'm going to call it kind of quits at that. Sorry to cut you off a little bit. And we didn't have time to delve into some of the things to try when you hit a roadblock, but yeah, thanks for volunteering to hop up in the hot seat. It's definitely like a really crazy process that you're going through. So a really good one to kind of like delve into just to find out like the complexity of what can happen when you end up in discussions. Like a lot of it is just craziness. Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden, you know, it's like we're talking about the concept of organizing and developing a monthly community marketplace. Well, I have to organize and develop the business districts who work on a project
Right, yeah.
for that.
It gets crazy.
You know,
really
so
fast,
it's like,
yeah.
you know, it's gone from the grassroots entrepreneurs to the people with really established businesses that have been here for a while to, you know, work with them on something like this. And it's, you know, it's an interesting, it goes interesting places really quickly.
Totally.
Yes.
Well, thanks again, and thanks again everyone for coming out too. To Cake, this is great. Really good session. And yeah, feel free to stick around. I'm probably gonna have another beer here before we take off if anyone wants to chat. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week. Thank you again so much. And again, we're donation based, so if you haven't tossed anything in, feel free to toss a couple